years ago, I was part of the national news media here in downtown Los Angeles covering the trial of the century. In my career, I've covered many big cases, but none have affected me like this one. One day I was in the courthouse when the elevator doors opened and there stood the family of Nicole Brown Simpson. I can still see the heartbreak on their faces.
With the mobilization of the women's movement and the raising of awareness with the Me Too movement and the intersectionality of so many groups coming together as one, this was the inspiration for us. What can we do?
I will free myself, believe in myself. I will keep myself safe and whole. I will love myself, reach out for help. This is what I know. I remember Nicole. I remember Nicole.
I remember playing the Greek theater the night of the slow chase. And everyone, this was before, cell phones and things, everyone was in the parking lot listening to the radio. It was like, I held the doors, I held the show for about half an hour waiting, and I told my guitar tech, I said, look, if he kills himself, don't tell me, I won't tell, but if they arrest him, let me know and I'll let the audience know.
You were in the court, right, when the verdict was read?
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, okay, so I don't know, I'm a total roller coaster buff. And it's kind of like when you're going up the hill, the initial hill that is just going to drop you. And it's that anticipation, that nervous feeling, that anxiety, and that's what I was feeling. And then when it was read, I remember clenching, the bench that I was sitting on, and I was on the edge, I was on, in the aisle, and I remember looking to my left to the deputy, and I just said, I want to go, like, I'm done, let's just move on. And she's like, I can't let you out. And I'm like, I want to get out, I just want fresh air and just start over, and it's a very bittersweet situation. This is not a stranger that was, tried. This was somebody who I called, Uncle OJ, so.
I'm one of very few black people that thought OJ was guilty. But there were just things that stood out during the trial for me. So one is, how does blood get on your socks, dude? I thought that if OJ had been just another brother from the block, he would have been in jail. He would have had no dream team. He would have wound up in jail because that's just the way the system works. We all know that's how the system works. A cop can get on the stand and say this, this, and this, and nobody vets that, nobody fact checks it, nobody argues or debates whether the cop told the truth. It's just assumed that he's innocent. So I still to this day believe OJ is guilty.
But with all the cheering, those the cheering and then the crying, the white community's crying.
Right, I understand the black community cheering, from the perspective of we've seen so many injustices and oh my God, now a black man gets away with murder, and they cheered that. It doesn't make it right. I don't care. If he's guilty, then he's guilty. And and a jury found him not guilty. So his peers found him not guilty. Hey, you walked away with it. You wrote a book, you made a movie, you did whatever. But karma has a way of catching up, and the system has a way of catching up, which is why he went to jail in Nevada.
Someone we've met along the way in our journey with I Remember Nicole is Angel Macias. She's turned her activism into action with California Families in Focus.
Always wake up to say, I believe. I believe I'm smart. I believe I'm beautiful. I believe I'm capable. I believe that I can do anything in this world that I set my mind to. There was a time in my life where I had to leave my abusive situation. And the person that I was with told me that if I left him, he was going to kill me and he was going to kill my children.
So do I remember the O.J. Simpson trial, the trial of the century? Of course I remember it. Do I remember how I felt when he was acquitted of the double murder? I do. My heart sank when I heard the news, and it sank even further when I saw the reaction of people, how they were cheering and how they were so happy that he was acquitted, seeing that there was so much evidence. So you have to take into consideration a few things. Was he let off easy because he was a famous football star? Or were people just sick of the police tampering with evidence? And I think it was a combination of both. And, you know, it doesn't take away the hurt and the pain that the families felt. Just to know the history of the domestic violence during the time that they were married and after they were separated. You know, domestic violence, if not stopped or if someone doesn't intervene, it just escalates. And this is, you know, perfect proof that it can go from domestic violence to murder. And I totally in my heart believed that OJ was guilty. And one of the main reasons was just watching him after the bodies were discovered. Just his actions. His actions said a lot, you know. And of course, he had the dream team to help him out and back him up and prove his innocence. So he had a lot of stuff going for him, you know. I just feel bad for Nicole's entire family, for Ron's entire family. And I remember I was going through domestic violence during this time too. And to me, it was I had high hopes that, you know, he would be found guilty and that he would, Nicole and Ron would have some sort of justice. Their family would have some sort of justice. But it was just heartbreaking. And, you know, that whole, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Johnny Cochran's wise words of wisdom were just like a clown show to me, you know?
When I was a little girl, my mother was friends with OJ. Like, he walked into a room and the room, like, lit up. He had that kind of dynamic, just exuberant light around him, right? So we lived in Malibu, and my mom would have these sort of notorious Christmas parties. And in walks OJ with his wife. I didn't, you know, I assumed. And she was wearing a white, kind of a sheath dress. There was this, like, it was otherworldly, the two of them walking through a room together. And my sister Trisha Lee and I ran around and we were like, who are they? And not who are they? We knew who they were, but we were like, God, they're amazing. And, you know, from the outside, you don't see that stuff. You don't see that stuff. I remember, I can't believe it's 25 years ago. I remember where I was. I remember following it along. I remember feeling that he had done it all along, that it was an outrage. And then I think we put it aside, and the fact that these were human beings that are no longer here, and that people cry out for help, and they do when they can, and we need to listen.
Nicole and I got in a fight about 2 weeks before her murder because, like, of a shirt that I lent her, and I mean, just sibling stuff, right? So to Nicole to me was just Nicole. She was just my sister, and OJ was just my brother-in-law. But to everybody else, she's something so much bigger. And, you know, 25 years later, my heart still, it hurts. But it also has a lot of joy because I can't bring her back. So why not create music videos? Why not, you know, speak out about domestic violence? Why not use her legacy and your legacy, your family's legacy, whatever? We all have a story. Just don't give yourself permission to allow that story to die in vain. Do something with it.
I will free myself and believe in myself.
I will keep myself safe and whole.
For domestic violence survivors, I'm gonna read a few lines that were written to affirm you and to affirm us, because I also am a domestic violence survivor. And quite frankly, these are all the lines that freed me and kept me safe and helped me to survive. So I really appreciate them. Thank you, ladies. I will free myself. I believe in myself. I will keep myself safe and whole. I will love myself. Reach out for help.
I remember Nicole. I remember Nicole.
It never occurred to me covering the trial of the century that police would plant evidence. But look where we are today.
We can't breathe! We can't breathe! We can't breathe!
Obviously, a heightened awareness now, especially for white people, something that would never occur to us, has been a distrust and a fear for generations of people of color. And we're certainly not saying that the LAPD planted evidence, but it's pretty clear now. For me personally, when the verdict came in, I was working with women of color and I saw their reaction, and I learned that day that they had lived generations of fear from the LAPD, their dads, their uncles. They're holding their breath until their young sons would come home from the store. And it was at that time I realized, I didn't know what it was called, my privilege, my white privilege. I didn't live in that constant fear.
Did you understand that?
Or was that just not even on your radar, you know?
Like the racial divide?
Yeah.
Is that what? No, we never saw that. And now we're seeing it. And it's really, it's shocking because, when our family went through what we went through, I had no idea, because when we went through the courthouse, we went underground. So we didn't see the chaos that was happening in front of the courthouse. We didn't even have TVs on in our house. Like we had like 5 kids, between my sister's kid, all my sister's kids. We didn't want to expose them to all of that. So I can't say we, I'm going to say I didn't see anything. And if I did, maybe I don't remember.
As a family, you were having enough to, try to, live through that as it was.
Yeah, we just wanted to create some normalcy, for everyone, for the kids, for all our kids, not just Sydney and Justin, for everybody. Normalcy. Our focus was always on all the children, not just Sydney and Justin, my nephew Sean, Aaron, everybody, even ourselves. It's like, it goes back to like the serenity prayer, right? It's like, if you can't control it or change it, it's like, okay, you got to accept it and try to move on and do the best, with what you got.
No one wanted to believe cops were dirty, that they would put their hand on a Bible, raise their hand to God and tell a lie on the stand. Nobody wanted to believe that. I'm ex-military. I want to believe that people in uniform uphold their oaths of office, that this badge means something, that your honor, integrity, and you have some type of moral conviction. But cops are doing stuff dirty, and I dated a cop. I saw firsthand how dirty cops are, raiding drug dealers, taking their money, coming home, snorting their drugs. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, but that's the culture of the police force that has developed because we've allowed it to, this is why I believe we should reform the police department.
The black community and brown community have known for years that this is happening.
Right.
We're just here.
But we had no way of proving it. Right now with video, cell phone technology, everybody's got their phone up. I'm glad it's coming to light, and it's sad that so many black men or Americans, period, regardless of what their heritage is, so many Americans are being shot by police officers. For what? For jaywalking? For a busted tail light? You're gonna end somebody's life over that? I don't understand. Well, I do understand it, but it needs reform for real.
So, were you surprised at the divide in the black and white community?
No. Like I said, we have a caste system, right? So in white America, you've got one view, like you've had this view that, oh, cops wouldn't plant evidence. Well, black folks are like, well, wait a minute, I've seen them do it. You never wanted to believe that, stop and frisk. What was that about? Most of those guys had stuff planted on them after they were stopped and frisked, just so they could get locked up and they could get that little chip on their book or whatever these cops are getting incentives for. But so I think where we are now is that you've woken up to the facts that, yeah, just because a cop said it doesn't mean it's true.
Rosie, Rivera.
When I was a child, my sister was going through domestic violence, and she used to babysit me. So we would hear it. It was never directly in front of us, but if it was in a different room, we heard the banging. And it just brought a lot of terror. You never knew if she was going to be okay, and to be honest, if he was going to be okay. And there was a lot of breakup to make up. And we lived through it with her. And I think we live it as women, as men, but our children do too. So it was terrible to see my sister go through it. But with that also came the lessons of, sister, don't ever put up with it. We are not, and our children will not live this. So when I got into a bad relationship, her victory became my victory because I was able to get out of it.
This is Tanya Brown, Nicole's sister. Tanya?
Oh, we gotta do the lyrics first.
Yeah.
Hi.
Rosie, her sister was a famous
Rosie.
singer.
The which?
Tragically died.
Jenny, my sister Jenny. Yes, she died 7 years ago in an airplane crash, and I'm the trustee of her estate.
Oh,
You're Nicole Brown's
yeah.
sister? Oh my Lord.
Yes.
May I hug you?
Yes. I'm all about hugs. Oh.
Is there something you think back on and feel like, why didn't I see that?
Absolutely. It's when I helped her move out of Rockingham. That's when I was packing her up, and we were in Sydney's room packing up her bedroom, and I guess Dad, or OJ was standing behind me, and Nicole kind of had this look of fear, and I just didn't pay any attention to it. They were divorcing, and divorces, are never nice, and so that was one of them. I saw some fear in her eyes.
You have little children, you have little boys that are learning that this is the way you resolve problems, and you have little girls that think that this is okay. And I know how the escalation process goes. You'll start with name calling, a little shoving here and there. Why are you wearing that? Why you have all that makeup on? Why are you going to visit certain people, or sometimes even your family? So it escalates, and you think it's cute at the beginning because, oh, he really loves me, he really cares about me. But the reality is that this is a personality of people who need to have control all the time. And you can blame it on the way they were raised, past relationships or whatever, but it is never, ever okay for somebody to hurt another human being. I don't care if it's male and female, if it's female and female, male and male. You don't have the right to make somebody feel less than human. And you do not have the right to put your hands on anyone. If it comes to that point, you need to leave. Because this evidence shows that it just gets worse when it's not dealt with. And a lot of the women and some men that are going through domestic violence don't become survivors. They become victims. They become murder victims.
So we have to give a lot of support to all the women. Not only women, also men that are coming out and talking and sharing their testimonies. It takes courage, and we have to be there to listen at least. And give them a lot of love, because it can't be easy.
Right. Thanks for mentioning the men too, because
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
At the time, domestic violence was really not even brought up into the mainstream. So this sort of pulled back the curtain on that. with Nicole documenting calls to the police and
right.
photos. So that opened that discussion there, something that's sort of been, like you said, like behind closed doors.
Right.
So did that have any effect on you and the police response?
The police response to Nicole's cry for help that she's being abused, those phone calls?
Yeah, for starters.
Yeah, those were for me to listen to that, very traumatic. I mean, I was traumatized listening to some of those calls. What's up, Jacob? I was traumatized just listening to her calls for help. I'm glad that I believe LAPD has a new protocol, of course, for handling domestic violence. But yeah, there's still a lot of work that we could do, definitely. And you know, most cops, there's a high rate of domestic violence in the police force. So we've got to work on that all the way around.
That's a good point. That is true, because I knew that a long time ago, but yeah, so there was this call for help. At the time, there was nowhere she could really go.
Right.
And people really didn't talk about it publicly. It was always some kind of a dirty secret. So at least if anything came from that, even though we always talk about OJ and the murder, what was happening, nobody disputes the fact that it was a violent relationship,
Right.
a dangerously violent
Toxic,
relationship.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic and violence mixed together, combustible. But they'll excuse that. And they'll excuse the fact that he didn't want to identify with the black community. You know, they'll excuse all of that because he's a celebrity or he's he's whatever. I don't know, but it makes no sense to me. Because if the man is guilty, then he's guilty.
Yeah, what do you mean that he didn't identify with the black community?
Because there comes a time when you make so much money as a black, some black folks look at it like this. You can, we want to rise in station. You know, everybody's goal should be to try to rise above and achieve whatever. He achieved that. He was the first black athlete to really cross into that field of mainstream America. Everybody loved him. He did the Hertz commercials. And so he's mixing and mingling, and he kind of removes himself from mainstream black life, the black culture, because now you've dropped into mainstream, the dominant culture. And some of us just want to see our brothers stay connected to the community in any way that they can. Yes, it's okay that Dr. Dre went and bought a house in Malibu. He's still taking care of people in Compton. Kendrick Lamar, same thing. The young rapper that just passed, he understood, you can make it, but come back and take care of the neighborhood. And so OJ never did that.
And as the more people talk and we shine lights on these things that haven't really, the general population isn't aware of, that can lead to that, more of an understanding and bring it to harmony when we understand what our neighbor or somebody else is going through that we could never realize.
Exactly. And people are hurting. My next door neighbors are probably going through something. Your next door neighbors are probably going through something. What that is, I don't know. But it's time to start talking about the things that we never really talked about.
During this pandemic, domestic violence, intimate partner violence has drastically increased. People are uncertain. Children are being affected, of course, and pets. And we also don't know what's going on with our courts. What's going to happen with the Violence Against Women's Act or the red flag laws?
Yes, statistics show that domestic violence has gone up 33%. Drug and alcohol abuse has gone up exponentially as well. Isolation is dangerous anyway for mental health, but now we have to actually isolate and quarantine. And so this is really causing a lot of danger in some of these homes across, globally, not just here in America, but globally. And it's time we pay attention. So, for me, when I had COVID, I was fine isolating. I was sleeping, I was sick as a dog, and I just wanted to sleep my little life away.
They're finding out now it's not just heart and lungs, it affects your brain.
Everything, absolutely. I mean, that's where the depression, anxiety, it's like you're wired differently now. And, if COVID is affecting you, whether it's personal or all together if it's challenging for you. Get on one of these support groups. Oh my gosh, reach out to me. You guys know I'm very approachable. You can always reach out. Email me, Tanya@tanyabrown.net. You can Google me, reach out, whatever you need. I will encourage you to get help because you are not alone.
I love myself. I believe in myself, and I will ask for help.
I will keep myself safe and whole.
I will love myself, and I will reach out for help. It's important because
Yes.
that's a hard thing to do when you're in a situation that you can't take yourself out of and look at it from a different perspective, asking for help, whether it's your family or a really close friend or somebody that you trust. You can feel very scared to reach out, even doing that action. And I think it's really important for people to realize that it's okay to reach out. Like you need that support system if you're in a situation like that. Just love yourself, look for the signs, watch for the red flags. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Listen to your gut instinct. It'll never steer you wrong. And be safe. Be safe.
Sometimes people have asked me, Tanya, how did you get through it? Well, to everybody who's watching and listening to this, obviously I didn't. Life is still hard. I still have my moments. I still struggle. I'm not perfect. We're in this life together, and I have my 5 people that I call on all the time if I'm hurting, and if none of them are available, I call suicide hotline. I call the NAMI warm line. I reach out and get help, and that's why I do the advocacy that I do, to encourage people you are not alone, and it is not a sign of weakness at all if you reach out. It's actually a sign of strength.
To just hear you talk so honestly,
you're saving lives.
Yeah, you are saving lives.
Yeah.
And thank you. If I can shine a light in somebody's heart, then holy cow, I'm going to do it.
Well, even though we're all in isolation, I really feel like you're hugging us now.
Hugs, huge hugs. That's my motto.
I believe in myself, and so should you.
I remember Nicole as a metaphor for Nicole because we're all Nicoles. There's many Nicoles out there. Please watch and share.
So our goal and our inspiration in all of this was to raise awareness while raising the roof.
Trembling in my wedding white, forever on my mind, dreaming of a love without end. I prayed his vows would change him. He swore to God above he'd never hurt me again. Shattered promises, silent screams. I promise this, I promise me, I will free myself, believe in myself. I will keep myself safe and whole. I will love myself, reach out for help. This is what I know. I remember Nicole. I remember Nicole.